Good evening, everyone. Sorry to disturb your conversations. Welcome, very warm welcome to the June event. Thank you so much for coming to see us. It's lovely to see everybody in person. We got a very interesting topic tonight. I think we're going to have some fun with it. Bret's put something nice together for us, so we're going to enjoy that. So just a few remarks first before we get going. My good friend TJ is going to drive the slides. There we go. All right. Okay, so we're going to begin with our usual tradition of welcoming our guests and first-time members this evening, right? So I'm going to go table by table, and those who are guests or first-time members, but I think we just have guests today. Just a couple of things. Just say who you are, who you're with, what you do, and who are you a guest of this evening, right? So I'm going to start here because this is my friend, Jeff.
Hi, my name is Jeff Sevison. I'm CIO at Packet Watch, and we're a cybersecurity firm in Scottsdale, and I'm here as a guest of Simon.
Thank you. We don't have anybody here. Hey, let me just turn the camera around.
Hi, my name is Wade Newhouse. I'm a guest here of Michael from Zazzle, and I'm the IT director at the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center.
Thank you. Right, what do we have back here? Yes. Let me just get the camera.
Yep.
How's it going, everyone? Yep, there I am. All right, so I'm Matt Riley. I'm with CopperPoint, and I'm responsible for our digital team, so our two portals, along with some of our automated testing. So it's great to be here.
Okay, thanks very much. And we don't need you, right? Yeah. Yes, you have. Okay, thank you very much. Now, the most important thing is we had some drinks, and it was lovely to meet everyone over drinks, and I really appreciate it. I want to give a great hand and thanks to our good friends at Zazzle for sponsoring the drinks. Yep. All right, thank you very much. Right, so this is going to be our last evening event for the summer. We usually take a summer hiatus, let you guys get out of the heat. So July and August, we won't have events, but I will let you know that the board is going to be meeting during that time because we're going to be planning the takeover of the world in your absence. But you have a good time during the summer. We're going to get back together in September. We have a full slate of events, and I'm going to ask my good friend Derek to take us through those, if you will, please.
All right, thank you, Simon. Thank you all for joining us today to have Bret go over leadership communication, right? And so all of these programs, the topics that we get from our survey. So please fill out the survey when you get a chance so that we can make sure that we're bringing these topics to you. The next topics that are up, as you can see, artificial intelligence and machine learning and associated concerns. So we can go down a lot of different rabbit holes with that in terms of what's happening with your development teams and with your decisions on what vendors you're choosing, what platforms you're choosing. So we have some great speakers and ideas around that. We have digital transformation, which is obviously something that we're seeing. Your products, if they don't have some type of digital footprint to them that can be monetized, you may be going backwards. So again, digital transformation, then product management and user experience. So these are really great topics. We'd love to have some folks that are here in the room reach out to me after this and say, hey, I'd love to be a part of the panel for that. So reach out to me. Again, my contact information is on the board of directors site, or you could just speak to me after. Thank you so much.
Derek. Fabulous. My father was called Derek, so I've always got an affinity for the name Derek. So very good. Okay, there's a couple of events. We want to try to get back into this. How many folks know Mark Goldstein? He's he's very famous in the sort of cyber world here in the Valley. He used to put together this great monthly list of events, and he stopped doing it right about COVID. And I realized that was my go-to source for events for putting up here, right? And I just reached out to Mark and he's stopped doing it. So serious point though is if you know any events you think will be of interest to the SIM members here, do let us know. We can get them posted up here. So we do have a couple that we wanted to bring to your attention. SIM National is running a SIM Women session, and I think that'll be absolutely fantastic. Does anybody want to say a couple of words about that that's involved in it or knows about it? Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. I do attend the SIM Women events regularly, and the founder of the group is really quite dynamic and energetic, and she really brings in some high quality speakers. And so this is normally done during a lunch hour, Arizona time. So it's 1 hour investment of your time, and I highly encourage you to register. You can register for free online. So just go to SIM website and follow the link and register. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. What is it telling me? Sorry. Nope, I don't want to do that. Right. Asking me to join audio. No, I don't want to do that. And for those who've been in the Valley any length of time know about this interface conference that goes on every year at Keelan Western. It's based around IT and cybersecurity and all sorts of stuff. I think it's free to go to, I believe, if I remember. But it's usually quite fun. It's an all-day event. Okay, thank you, TJ. Caught you mid mouthful. All right. So that's enough about me, right? So I want to introduce a very good friend of ours and of course a very long time member, Bret, and Bret Wingert from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And he's going to take us through what I think is going to be kind of fun session about communications, particularly communicating up to the C-suite. So I know some of you guys are the C-suite, but for a bunch of are not. A real challenge is how do you as a technologist talk to the C-suite and get your proposals and ideas across and accepted, which is not always easy. All right. So Bret's going to have some fun with us to take us through some ideas here, right? Hey,
Sounds
thanks.
good.
Give a
That's
warm
good.
welcome to Bret, please.
All right. So obviously this is going to be interactive. So I'm hoping you guys are all thinking about your communication wins and horror stories along the way, because we all have them. I can think of several. I'm having a little PTSD at the moment. But let's go forward. So when they asked me about this one, this is the first thing that came to my mind, which is if you don't know this movie, it's what we have here is a failure to communicate, and you're going to spend 9 hours in the box. So the point is that communication is critical in our daily lives. You can have the best idea in the world, and if you can't communicate it or communicate it in the wrong way, you can really your idea can be lost, or put in the dark attic of obscurity for the rest of your career. So it's super important to be able to communicate. And the reason I say up and down is because even if you only need to communicate up, you also have the responsibility, if you're a leader, to coach and mentor the folks that work for you. I probably spend, I don't know, half hour a day, every day, talking to somebody about a communication. That can be an email, a presentation, and how to in coaching them so that they learn how to move forward. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I look for when we do that. So let's go forward. Well, so all these little words up here are things to help kind of spark the conversation. This is not all we're going to talk about. If you have other things you'd like to bring up, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear anecdotes or techniques that you've learned along the way. So I'm going to start with time box a message. I like this one because this is something that happens all the time. It can be as simple as you've been invited to a meeting of your executive leadership team. They say, hey, Brett, you got 10 minutes to talk about XYZ. You go, awesome, 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes. And you get up there and you know how these meetings go. If you've ever been in them, you're a little later in the agenda. They go, yeah, Brett, you only get 5 minutes and it's got to be quick. And we're going to ask questions. So really you get 3 and then we're going to ask questions. So you always have to have your message in chunks that can be served up in different time slots. I always, you know how technical people are. They get up there and they're just like, they start talking about something and they're so excited about it. And they go, brrr. I said, okay, that was good. But imagine the CEO steps out of her car as we were walking in the building. She says, hey, Brett, what's going on with Project Zero? And he says, I got 30 seconds. We're walking to the elevator. And you start, well, first the earth cooled, then the dinosaurs came and we discovered oil. And then oil led to electricity. And then we got semiconductors. She says, okay, we're at the elevator. Sorry. Good. It was good. Great to see you. Thanks. Thanks for doing what you do. So you think about, okay, what is the most important thing you want to deliver in 30 seconds or 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 15 minutes? So you always have to have your message time boxed in some way that because you never know how much time you're going to get. You never know who you're going to see in the parking lot, and don't waste those opportunities. And so I just want to see, does anybody relate to that one? Or do you have a story of the time maybe you didn't time box and you were sorry you were still on the title slide when the time ran out? Anybody? Nope. All right. Everybody.
Actually, I want to know something.
Yeah.
Has anybody actually had the elevator pitch moment?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You had to give a chat on the elevator. Well, that's close
Same
enough.
Same thing. That's great.
Do you want to talk about that just for a second?
This is from when I was an intern. So at Avnet, we usually use the stairs. We only got 2 floors. So I actually ran into the CEO in the stairwell. And luckily I knew who he was. But as an intern, I hadn't prepared a what do I do here kind of elevator pitch. And that was a lesson for me that I should always have, if I run into this type of person at my company, I need to know what do I do here and how am I contributing, or what is my ask if I run into such a person for the 2 flights of stairs.
That's great. Good one.
Elevator one. Did somebody
Real
else
life experience.
was in an elevator, was asked to say something? No? You did? Oh, somebody popped up. Who was saying that? Oh, Troy. Hey, Troy. Tell us, Troy.
Yeah, right. That's the classic. We have a weekly ELT meeting. Sometimes I stand in for my boss, and I'm always ready on those. He says, hey, Brett, you got 20 minutes to talk about this. I go, no, I'm not going to get 20 because I'm going to be between them and lunch, or something else happened. And so you've always got to be able to say, what you really want to do is do 10 minutes and go, you got any more? Can we go a little deeper? Yeah, sure. So it's a great example. And that's probably very common. It sounds super simple, but it's hard. And particularly with technical topics, because people want to give the details. They want to talk about the kind of obscure, obtuse details, which are super important. But what we're trying to do at this level is communicate, what's the problem? What's the problem? What do you want them to know? They're not fixing it. You don't expect them to log onto the server and do something. You just want to tell them this is what we're trying to do. So they maybe have a little better understanding. So that's what I like a lot. Lead with the why. I mean, I see a lot of presentations that they start going, and you're like, what are we doing here? Why am I here? What? And you'll notice this is what happens when you're in an executive call and you're doing a presentation and they're, oh no, I'm totally listening to you. Yeah, no, hold on. Hey, did you see this thing here? So you've got to make sure that you pull them in so they're like, oh, I need to sit up and pay attention here. So always be thinking about, why are you there? What is your purpose for doing this presentation? And it's not it's not that you've got to tell them all this information. Sometimes it's not that. You want them to do something. You want them to understand something. What is it that you want them to do? So I think it's a super important point. on communications. Guy Kawasaki. So this is a pet peeve of mine. If you tell an IT person, okay, you get 2 slides, what do they do? What do they do? What size font is on their slide? Like 5. They put everything in there, the whole story, every 5. And so what does a listener do when you do this 5-point font? They're kind of trying to read it. They're not listening to you. They're reading the slide. They're way ahead. They're ahead of you or behind you or whatever, and you're up there blathering blah 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 blah. And everybody's listening. So you don't know. Who knows Guy Kawasaki? Does everybody know him? Okay. So his main principle is you're up there to tell a story. Okay, you're going to tell a story. It's not to do a data dump of everything you've ever learned. It's a story. So he wants you to use fewer words, no smaller than a 24-point font. Use pictures. Don't put any words on there. Just use a picture, something that reminds you what to talk about. You don't have to put all the information up there. You can put it in the notes section of your PowerPoint. It can be up here and so it just prompts you on what to talk. So it's really effective. I always see presentations that they're too many slides. You got 10 minutes, you got 12 slides. How is this going to work? How is it going to work? Tell me and then you walk through it with them, you realize we're at 15 minutes. You've been down for 5 minutes. So getting people to synthesize their message, and it's a technique that I like to use with people because it makes them really think about it. There's that old adage, it was a movie director who said, if you can't write the idea for your movie on the back of a business card, you haven't thought about it long enough. So that's the type of thing we have to do. And if you do that, it does force you to think, what is this? Why does the business care? Why does this person care? So I love Guy Kawasaki on that point. I tend to like presentations that have no words, just a picture. Because what does people remember? They remember, I have this one that I love to use where it's a picture of a guy fighting a fire and a picture of Smokey the Bear. I've used this in thousands of contexts. It's mostly about, we love to do this. We don't do enough of Smokey Bear, right? Do you think if I had this long thing, wow, we had 18% defects, so it really should be 16%, and we got too many people, out there, it's like, they're like, but they remember this is what we want to do, right? So that's one of my favorite, it's a favorite thing. Do you guys, does anybody have like a picture or something, a concept that they like to use that gets a point across that you've maybe used once or twice in your life?
Yes, we have a buyer here. By the way, a couple of things. Dessert is at the back. If you haven't seen it, take it. Yeah. And secondly, we fed you, so do interact with us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So that's a quid pro quo right there.
Right. There you go.
All right. So one that stood out to me, and I've seen it years ago. Now I use it a ton, and you've probably seen it, is the picture of a diner countertop with the ketchup and mustard. We waited 30 minutes, no service, and it's all around customer service, right? And
Right.
being responsive and quick to act and things like that. And that one just stuck out.
It's great.
Stuck
Great
out to me for
example.
this
Great
entire time.
example.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's good. And that story is going to stick with somebody. They're going to walk out and remember, oh yeah, ketchup and mustard.
Come on, how many people have you just used Dilbert cartoons? Come on.
Yeah.
I know.
There's Dilbert. Yeah, Dilbert's always a good one too.
It is. Yeah.
Any
But it
other,
does have
any
work.
other, visuals that people use to really get that a story across? Yeah.
Lots of times we just use spaghetti.
Uh-huh.
We use
Troy will never hear.
so the last time we presented together,
Yeah.
we presented on a project, and this project was super complex. It was a pharmaceutical company, which you all know.
Yeah.
And we were in there trying to change everything. And the first thing that we showed to represent our experience was a little girl grabbing a plate of spaghetti and showing it to everybody.
Yeah.
And that was our experience. But you can use it for a lot of things. You can show process maps that are just spaghetti as the part, but it kind of sets the tone that we're all in this together, that we're gonna work through work through the spaghetti.
But people will remember an image long after they've forgotten what you wrote on your slide. So it really is a good technique. The other thing with Guy Kawasaki is, tighten up, I always tell people, we got to tighten this presentation up. I mean, people just have slide after slide after slide. I'm like, oh, what am I looking at? Usually lots of data, charts, pie charts, and how do you tighten this thing up to really make it something that's people will walk out and they may want more information. That's what you want. This is not your last chance ever to communicate on something. It's kind of like, I always say, it's kind of like a resume. Your resume is not supposed to tell your whole life story. It's just supposed to get you the interview. And then you can tell your whole life story if you want, right? So anyways, okay. Bluff. Who knows what bluff is? Anybody? Nobody's heard of that one. Okay, this
Bottom
one.
line up front.
And yes, bottom line up front. Yeah. So I will say this is one, if you're a
I just want to
vendor-
give a shout out to Vishwa. That was very good, man. Thank you very much. Yes. That just shows you the people remote are listening.
Yeah, they're listening.
And they're watching.
Thank you. So I would say the biggest, the place where I see this violated the most is when vendors are doing presentations. They want to just take you through, our company's 50 years old. Look at all the logos we have. Wow, we have all this crazy technology and and you're like, what are we here for? So, start with what you're really going to have to do. You're going to have to spend $2 million with us and you're going to get XYZ. You kind of go, what? $2 million? How did you get that? Oh, let me tell you. And then you go through it. So the bottom line up front, I'm gonna kind of date myself with this. And I know this is before I even knew that was a thing. I did live in the era of when you actually made transparencies, and I'm sorry to admit that. But I did. I really did. So I had a CIO who you'd walk with your stack, and God help you if you drop the thing, but you'd walk in. Carefully put it by the overhead projector who's, so there you go. He would do this. He'd go, whoop, he'd start from the back. He says, I don't have time to go through this whole thing. Start from the back. And the back was, I need $2 million. And, he's like, well, what the hell do you need $2 million for? Well, let me back through my slides. So I'm like, crap, that's really great. Because, the leaders, they don't have the thing they don't have any of. They don't have any time. And they want you to cut to the chase. I see too many people who want to talk and go, ta-da, here's my final slide, and we're not doing a motivational talk here. We're really trying to communicate information. So it's super important to start with the bottom line. And even if it's bad news, the project is completely in the toilet. We're not going to make September 1st. And that's it. And now everybody's like, what? Now they're listening, right? They put their phones down, they put everything down, and now they're paying attention like, Bret, what the hell happened? Let's fix this. And now you're saying, okay, well, here's the reason. So it's a way to kind of pull your audience in and not waste their time. So I love bluff, particularly, probably the more senior the person is, the more they want that. They want you just to tell them what is go to that lower right corner of the spreadsheet. What's that number? What is that number down there? And share that with them. So it's a key one. Anybody experience this? Have you ever had a presentation where you were kind of talking and they wanted to, can you go to the last slide or something like that? Or have you used this with success?
It was a daily dialogue. I had a client up in Seattle, and I would always have to give reasons for what I was getting ready to answer. So I would give my reasoning first, and then I would give the answer. And she just called me on it one day. She goes, no, you start off with yes or no,
Right.
and then you give me your reasoning. And
There
it
you
was
go.
an amazing training experience. And so I started doing that, and that set her up. She goes, okay, I know where you're headed. And then I would give the explanation of why I was saying yes or no. So it's, but that was the bottom line up front
Right.
thing on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd be
And
surprised.
there's me thinking bluff was, yeah, sure, the project's going to be
It's
delivered
fine, we're all
September.
good. It's all good. But it is something where you'll be surprised. It's scary, right? Because you think, oh, I'm going to soften the blow. I'm going to kind of lead them up to the bad news, whatever that is. But it doesn't really work. It doesn't work. And you're going to be a lot happier if you rip the Band-Aid off, show them the news, whatever it is. Maybe it's good news. And then sometimes they're going to go, I'm good. I mean, that's what happened. I've had that happen. I need $2 million and 6 people. Okay. All right, next. And you're like, oh, crap. Yeah, yay. yay, and you're out, you're off, you know. So sometimes they understand the problem and they don't want to hear the whole, you know, the whole spiel. They're like, okay, we trust you, or I'm sure you put some thought in this, you always do. And they've got the presentation, they can look at it later and ask you questions. So sometimes doing the bluff yields to like quicker outcome. So what and who cares? So this one applies mostly to people who love to show you data. I've got a lot of groups that show me data all the time. I have a service desk. I did this just this week, and I get a, I don't know, 8-page report every morning. And I asked the person, I said, so what? And she goes, well, what do you mean? Like, does that mean I don't know what a service? Yeah, I know what a service desk does, but so what? What does this data tell me? And I said, and who cares about this? Does anybody care? Is anybody reading this report? Does anybody look at this every day and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to go left rather than right today? I don't know. I said, okay. So you have to have data that matters, and you have to know who cares. So I see, you know, I think the biggest failure here is when you're communicating data, just to throw up a pie chart or graph, and there's no annotation, no commentary. It's just like, well, look at that. And he goes, yeah, it's a line doing that. What does it mean? You know, what do you want me to do anything? And so it's super important, I think, to always think about the so what and who cares. And that so what can change with the audience, right? Depending on who you're talking to. Somebody's going to think about it differently than others. And the who cares is also important. I mean, is there any, if you're talking to a senior person, is there anybody in the organization that cares about this? And if the answer is no, then you're probably like, okay, you either got the wrong data or you're showing it to the wrong people. And so it's super important, I think, to always challenge yourself. And when I do this, particularly if it's somebody that's a little newer or anything, they always kind of, I can tell they kind of get their feelings hurt a little bit, you know, because they've spent like a week putting together this pretty chart, but they have no idea what does it do. I asked the service desk person, I said, so tomorrow, are you doing anything different based on this data? Nope. I said, okay, then what's it for? Well, you know, we're supposed to produce this report. I'm like, oh, that's a great reason to produce a report because somebody said you should produce it. But anybody relate to so what and who cares? You ever get that? Do you ever look at a chart of data and think, man, it's a beautiful chart, but I have no idea what it's telling me to do.
I want to know who delivered a so what, who cares? Come on. Somebody must have done this in their career. Come on, you're all, don't tell me you've been perfect all your career.
Every
Michael.
report that's come to you is spot on.
Give us a good example.
Yeah.
We had, we produced a stack of paper this high for the water department at the city of Phoenix.
There you go.
Just literally that high. And we duplicated it for everybody who needed it. Now, most people only needed 3 pages, someplace in that list. So as soon as we decentralized and said, what needs are you? And then we would ship it to them first thing in the morning. We discovered that there are a whole lot of reports within that stack that were never used.
Never used.
It gave us a great opportunity
Exactly.
to eliminate it.
It's an excellent example.
I feel sorry for the trees,
Yeah.
personally. Any other stories?
Another technique is to, and I've done this too. I said, I want you to stop doing that report. And I want to see who calls.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I said, we're gonna go a week. This is a daily report. I can tell you if nobody calls in a week, then we're gonna go to once a week. And then we're gonna stop that one. If nobody calls in a month, then pretty soon we realize nobody's looking at this thing. You know, the person that asked for that left the company 5 years ago and said, I want this distributed to everybody and blah, blah. And okay, we got it. And everybody's like, I don't even know why we get this stupid thing. Yours is a great example. I don't know. Why am I getting this stack of paper every month? Yeah. Right. Yeah, it is crazy. So, I mean, it's a great example of ways to really challenge. This is one that's almost, I like this. You have to challenge yourself and also challenge your teams to really look at their data and say, what is the purpose of this data? I get it. You guys can produce charts all day long, but what is the purpose? What do you want me to do at the end of the day differently on this? And people, they get their, like I said, they get their feelings hurt when when you talk to them about this, because they think, God, I put all this work. I asked for some data out of one of the teams, and the person, this was like 2 weeks ago, and they sent me an email with 8 attachments. All were different charts. I'm sure there's like something really important in there, but I can't figure out for the life of me what it is. So I said, I can't share this with my leadership team. I can't, because they're going to go, Brett, what are you doing? I said, we got to just give me one chart that shows how they're doing on all this stuff. And she says, well, a lot of them aren't doing very well. I said, that's good. This is good. This is a start. Acknowledging the problem is the first step, right? So anyways, it's just interesting. And people have just been pumping this stuff out, and everybody just goes delete, delete, delete. So it's interesting. Oh, weasel words. Okay, somebody give me some weasel words that you hear every day. You all hear them. I guarantee if you opened up your email right now, you can probably find 50 of them. Huh? Maybe. Probably. Should. Great one,
Should.
right? We should have that by Friday. Yeah, you should, but are you going to have it by Friday? Huh? Yeah. Other one. Other weasel words. You guys, this is all day. You may use them.
You know what they say about try?
Yeah.
Try is failure with honor.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that's a weasel word. Go on. Any other weasel words?
One. Yeah. Yeah. Hope. Hope.
Hope.
There you go.
We hope.
That is probably
We hope we can
That's in
keep
the
our uptime.
royalty of weasel words. Well, how's the project looking? Well, we hope to finish by June 30th. Okay.
Hope is not a
that's
strategy.
right.
Exactly.
Right. It's usually people who are scared to take accountability, and that usually is an indication something is wrong. And if they're scared to take accountability, they're also not going to tell you what's really wrong. So other ones I like, as far as I know. Okay. What does that mean? Who does know? Does somebody know? As I have been told that. Okay. Who told you? What did they tell you? So those are great examples. I mean, people love to use language to kind of obscure the message again. So I think it's one you got to call people out on it. They also hate it. You'll see it in emails where there's a lot of passive voice. We were told not to do the thing, and the one team did and you're like, okay, which team? Who told you? And that's how you can detect weasel words, when it slips into passive voice, instead of just being direct, saying that, Susan told us to not do that last week because we had a different priority. Okay, now I got something I can work on, So any other weasel words come to mind? These are my favorites. I think I have a list somewhere on my in one of my files.
Oh.
Huh?
Oh, hang on.
I think we might be done by June 30th, provided
Yeah.
conditional ifs.
So
And by the way, any sentence that starts positively and then has a but,
ignore everything before the but.
ignore everything before.
So one of my favorite ones lately is, are we going to deliver this by a date? Well, if nothing goes wrong. Okay, what does that mean? I said, look, you cannot assume the happy path. You have to assume the crappy path and build some resilience into the darn thing. You can't tell me that every time, oh, well, that moves our date out 2 weeks. It's like, no, it can't be that. So I think it's really important that when you look at language, coach people to use more language. If you use words like that with leaders, they will eat you like, sharks on a penguin. Sharks on a penguin. Yeah, that's a very colorful. You can see the picture I'm going to have on the slide for that, can't you? It's going to be that one where the shark's jumping out of the water and the penguin's trying to get away. Yeah, see, that'll stay with you forever. So anyways, it's really important to use, that you write language. And we do so much, particularly after, so much now, so much is done over IM and email, we're slowly getting back to more in-person stuff where you can kind of read the room a little bit, but gosh, use precise language. And some people just want to like, I'm not going to really answer that question. I'm going to send a bunch of noise, and then you're like, hey. So anyways, any other good examples of weasel words? I love weasel words. I'm kind of a collector of weasel words. Yes, sir.
Well, hang on. John.
Yeah, I know I can ignore any sentence that begins with the word technically.
Oh, I love it. Great one. Great. That's great. No, I love that. I love it. But so you kind of got to root it out. I always coach people, particularly people that want to be leaders, that you got to just eliminate that from your communication. You have to eliminate it, and just be direct. I actually have a class, a 1 hour class I wrote on how not to use email. I did this like 10 years ago because I was so fed up with emails. I'm so fed up. I said, I'm making everybody going to go through my class. I wrote the class. I'm going to tell you, if I ever see this email, you're in trouble. And weasel words was one of them. And it really does. It's amazing how much it still pervades, the communications. And you think about how much more effective you could be, and how people don't listen to, if you're a leader, particularly, you tend to just ignore that kind of stuff because you realize this person's not even telling me really what's going on. So, okay. All right. 2 questions deep. Everybody knows this one, but the reason I put it up here was that when you get an opportunity to speak to a group of leaders, this may be your only shot, right? And you want to make sure that you can answer most of the questions that come up. You may get some crazy, what's the speed of a African swallow type question, and you don't know, and that's okay. But if you have too many of those, they're going to go, all right. Yeah, well, yeah, you write that back, you give that back, and you'll have action items, which kind of means you've been put into the attic of obscurity. So try to be ready for the questions. Think about what are they going to ask you. That's why the so what and who cares is important, because you got to think about who's in that room. What does the finance guy think about this? What's he going to ask? He's going to ask, hey, is this affecting our CapEx budget or something like that, right? What is the HR person going to say? Hey, this sounds like we're cutting costs. Are people going to be afraid of layoffs? I don't know, whatever you're presenting. So think about what are their concerns going to be. Think about what your answers are. Doesn't mean you have to be 100% right on everything, but saying, I don't know, let me take an action. I don't know, let me take an action. Your 20 minutes will become 10 really quickly. So it's really, anybody have examples where that saved their bacon and they were able to field a couple questions.
Who's had the worst question from the CEO?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well,
Unexpected.
Well, I'll tell you a
unexpected
story.
question. Yeah,
I'll tell you a story.
do. Go for it.
So I joined HSBC Bank in Hong Kong, and 2 months in, I had to present to the chairman of the bank, right, on a proposal for switching out X25 to frame relay. Who remembers that, right? And the chairman, who was the first person to ever reach chairman of HSBC from being chief programmer, was pretty technical, right?
Wow.
So I was going through this frame relay thing in X25, and he said, "Well, tell me about the D bit of the header of X25." Wow. So yeah, you can get all sorts of questions, right? And you can't probably prepare for that, but they can be very technical. Anybody got any good stories about CEOs or C-suite asking you really odd questions, or you were really prepared and you felt great? Anybody got one?
A good story or a nightmare?
Oh, it can be a nightmare. We like nightmares.
PTSD.
We love nightmares.
I'll give you one. It wasn't a question that was kind of nobody knew. It's more of a question that you have to prepare for because it's kind of a trap question. So we were recently updating the board, and so our cybersecurity person was going through talking about penetration testing. And one of the board members said, well, why do we only do it once a year? Why wouldn't we do a pen test more often, right? And the first, there's no right answer to that, right? Because if you say, oh yeah, we should do it more often. Well, why aren't you? Why are you here? Why didn't you think of that? And if
Yeah.
you say, no, it's not worth doing it more often. Well, are you sure you're never going to get hacked? So, I mean, it was one of those where you have to think about, and the right answer really
Yeah.
was, hey, if I had one more dollar to spend on cybersecurity, I wouldn't spend it on more
pen
penetration testing. We have other priorities, right?
Good.
But it was one of those questions where that came up and put the guy in an awkward situation. So
That's a great example. Yeah.
That is an
The ones
excellent
where, like you
example.
said, where you feel like rock hard.
The true
place.
answer is once or twice a year, by the way, for external vulnerability scanning. Once a quarter for internal vulnerability scanning. Right. Anybody else?
Any other questions, weird questions you got, questions you wish you'd prepared for in advance? I mean, this is, everybody's had them where you went, "Gosh,
I think there's a lot
didn't
of shy people in this room.
I didn't think of that one. Any other good?
Oh, here we go.
anything?
Here we go. Here you go, sir.
It's not necessarily a good question, but you got to stay on task. Okay, if you're going to be the CEO of we get back into the politics a little bit. If you're running for United States Congress, you talk about United States Congress issues. You don't talk about COVID or something like that. So that's not part of the position that you're looking for. Stay on task. Keep that up front. Where is your wheelhouse, and stay in there. Don't get sidetracked because you're going to get into the two questions.
Right. That's a great point. And the farther you go down that
Good.
hole, it's tough to get out of it again. Yeah. So no, that that reminded me. You kind of trigger something. What are the other thing is when you're in a group, it can go off track, right? They can wander off, and you're like, I thought we were talking about me, and now we're talking about something else. And so, what are some ways that you get people back to the topic at hand? Yeah. Which one? Yeah. How do you get them out of the rabbit hole? Anybody experience that? Attack. So what technique? What do you use? How do you kind of like? You can't go around and slap everybody in the room and say, "Snap out of it." We're not talking about the.
TJ, you gonna have a go with that?
Yeah.
I'm usually in charge of the slides, so I just progress the slide, and then there's a new thing that they want to talk about.
Right. A new rabbit hole. Yeah. That's good. That's good. No, that is a technique. Like moving on.
The other technique is great question. Next question.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, right. No, that's great. That is a good. It is a one that does. That you can end up. You're down now 8 questions, and you realize, okay, we've gone too far on this one. Let me set some time with you, because I know you want to know about the D-bit. I'm gonna D-bit your ears off. Let me just let me just find some time with you. And they may, oh, that's great, because I'd love to talk about it. Because a lot of the people in the room maybe aren't interested. So it's always identifying, again, so what, who cares? Have you kind of lost the room? So that's another thing. Yeah, parking lot's another good, right. Now, okay. Know your ask. So this is always another good one. When you go into these presentations, you've got the CFO and the CIO and the CEO, and they're all like, okay, what do you want? What do you need to do your thing? So make sure you know crisply what you want. Because if they go, this is the best idea ever. What do you need to do? What do you need to do this? Well, I didn't think you guys were going to say yes. Crap. Gosh. Yeah. So always know what your ask is. And again, don't be scared. If you need $2 million, you need 6 people or whatever it is that you need, be sure you're ready for the ask. They may say no, but the worst thing that can happen is they say yes, and you're not prepared. So know what you want. And it may be, sometimes the ask is not necessarily monetary. It can be a behavior thing, a communications thing. It could be a lot of different things that you're asking them to do, but make sure it's crisp and understandable so that they do it. Anybody have a good example of that one where they either A went, oops, they said yes, I didn't think they were going to go for that, and they weren't ready, or where they were ready and everything went swimmingly?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
1 second.
It was kind of a question I was going to ask,
Yeah.
Brett, which was more, I it's happened to me multiple times. So I can't imagine it hasn't happened to everybody else. You're like the 2 o'clock, and now all of these executives have been meeting all day long, right? You come in and you get onto slide number 2, and they all look at each other because there's something that they know that you don't know.
Right.
Right.
Happened at
And
10,
now
in the 10 o'clock
they
slot.
and they change the topic because of what they know and you don't know.
Right.
So the question becomes now your entire presentation has been turned on its head because now you've got to figure out. So the question is, how do you reel that back in without, excuse the expression, pissing them off?
Right. Right.
Because they now have, so, you know, I mean, I don't, I'm looking for techniques,
Yeah.
quite honestly.
What do you guys think? I mean,
Yeah.
who's had that happen? You know, again, how do you reel people back in? These are senior people. They have, I don't know, egos and personalities. Yeah.
Well, when you're British, you can say, you appear to have me at a disadvantage.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. I love that.
Well, thank you, my dear.
No, that's a great one.
You do. Actually,
Yeah.
you do have to call them. Yeah. I mean, you just have to say, you must say, obviously something happened earlier on this maybe changed the situation. Please share, you know, so we can.
Yeah, I mean, you could, I always try to inject, and I don't really say it up here, but I always try to inject a little humor into the thing, like saying, hey, I might have missed an email, but I have no idea what you guys are talking about right now. And it's okay, but we're like, you're over here all, and I don't have any idea what you're talking about. And they may go, yeah, give us 15 minutes. Okay. I'm just gonna go over here, sip my coffee.
Our CIO,
Yeah.
Ticketmaster, notorious for, you might as well just have one slide. Because it's the whole thing you're in there for changes within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And he usually went very deep on a lot of topics. So no, 2 questions deep.
Gotta be 10.
It was tough. And you really, after a few of those, you just start planning for it. Just
Right. Stories with topics that kind of went in a different direction. You know,
I have a question for you. This is an assumption. It's an assumption that the entire C-suite's on the same page. What do you do when they're not on the same page and there's not a clear direction from them on where they want to go? You have the CIO saying something different and the CFO, and they're definitely not on the same page. They don't want to give the same direction. So that.
So me,
Yeah, so how do you
me,
deal with
when I have
that?
something where I even sense there might be a tad bit of controversy about the presentation. When I sense that, I'm gonna figure out who's in my court and who's not. And who's maybe on the fence, because you probably have all three, right? So I'm gonna go to the people who are not in my court and show what I intend to show. It might be a simplified version. I might just say, hey, and say, oh, we're gonna crucify you if you do that. I say, okay, well, good. I do appreciate the heads up, but what are your concerns? So you kind of go, okay. So then you can come in and you can say, I know that you thought this was too expensive and really not a good use of money. I think what I've done now, I've taken some of the cost out, but I think we can still achieve the results. So you can start to, but it's getting in front of it. Now, that's not always, that sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes you don't have the time or they don't have the time. But that's probably my main, particularly something that I think is going to be, somewhat controversial. Yeah, it's not. I just kind of want everyone. Yep. So then when you get in there, they're like,
Oh, yeah, we already talked green, great idea, you know. And if you still have some enemies in the room, if those, you know, it's a group, they hunt as a pack, you know, so if you get five of the pack on your side, the rest of the pack, this is worth chasing this guy down for this. They're good. If you guys are good, I'm good. So you'll get a little bit of love that way, at least soften the blow. Those are the other. That's one thing I would do. I don't know, what do you guys do? When you know you could be walking into a buzzsaw, or you don't know, and the buzzsaw starts while you're doing presentation.
So you just did the explanation for circle the wagons.
Yeah, right.
So circle the wagons. It's trying to get how many wagons you can get together beforehand to tell your story for you.
Yeah, if you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of the time. I think you got through all your.
Yeah, I did get all of them. So are there any other questions or something you went, gosh, I came in here thinking I would hear this and I didn't hear it, or a different technique?
Well, actually, I just wanted to ask, with all this information, are you just knocking them out?
Oh, yeah. You know, by 2 o'clock, I got my feet on the desk and smoking a good cigar and to measure results. Pretty much. No, but you learn stuff along the way. This didn't happen in a dream back in 1985. You know, it's stuff you learn along the way. Not every technique works in every situation, but I like having a few tools. And my main purpose, I really want to build the next layer of people that don't get a chance to do this all the time. I see them just come in and just completely, just really do a bad job of presenting. They have a really good idea, and it just goes, you know. So that's my main thing. But no, do I have times where I'm going, you know, the buzzsaw in the room is probably the one that sometimes you just never see it coming. You just never see it coming. We try. You know, see that.
Well, I hope that was some fun because I thought it was really good fun, and it's a good way to close out the summer before you got 2 months break now. Right, thanks so much for doing that. It was so
happy to
fun.
do it. Really happy to do it.
Really
Happy to do it.
appreciate it. And, do stick around. That's the end of the formal session, but do stick around. You're not going to see each other for a couple of months, maybe. So take advantage. Have a very safe journey back home this evening, and have a great summer. And we just look forward to seeing you in September. Thank you so much.